Baseball Beat with Will Schneider and Andy.
Play ball.
All right, we are back talking the Baseball Beat for the first time since April. First up, the unofficial co-host of this podcast, somebody who I actually haven't talked to since the NFL draft in person, Will Schneiderhan. Will, welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. I have to say, I feel like it's been so long since you've been on here. I feel like it's a very long gap.
I was thinking about that today, actually. I was like, man, usually it was every like other week almost, and now it feels like it's been a long time, man. Like you said, NFL draft. Jesus, that feels like it was ages ago.
It really does. I feel like in the rotation, I feel like it's sort of been the pop culture world, the regulars, and our real correspondent Phil Fryer, we're gonna hear from later. They're the ones who've been popping up a lot, but our other part of the baseball beat actually has not been talked to since we were talking about a bubble in Arizona or Florida. Anthony Sorbolini's here with us. Anthony, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. Hanging in there. I know it's been what feels like years at this point.
Yeah, we feel like we've gone. I feel like at least like 10 years. This man about a month and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I don't know where 2020 went so far. I mean, I'm sitting here right now, and we're in the middle of June right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have 2020. You could sum it up basically in one sound effect. I mean, we've had
hit it right on the dot right there.
So much has gone wrong this year. Unless you're like a Kansas City Chiefs fan or like Ken Jennings, nothing's gone right for you in 2020.
Ever since the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, it's been downhill from there.
It has, but we're going to talk about the baseball today. We were going to originally be on the end of the show, talk about long gone summer, but we bumped you guys up to the middle here because this baseball thing has gotten very, very weird over the last like week or so. Wouldn't you say, Will?
I think that's an understatement. I mean, weird, just simply idiotic, like childish. I mean, we could probably sit here and just throw nouns and words at it for an hour alone. But yeah, it's been like just so, honestly, I don't even think I've cared for most of the last 2 weeks about it. I'll be honest. Like, I just don't care to hear about it anymore.
Yeah, I've been killing both sides on the podcast for the tone deafness, how we're fighting over money in the middle of a pandemic. But here we are. I do have some oral clips, some audio clips here to help us sort of walk through the timeline here. We will start off back at the MLB draft, where I actually talked to Anthony McCarron last Friday. We will start there with with one of Rob Manfred's first great lines.
I think at the end of the day, the most important thing, and I'm not buying into your number of 48, the most important thing is that we play Major League Baseball in 2020, and I can tell you unequivocally we are going to play Major League Baseball this year.
That's number one. At the draft, we are going to play baseball in 2020, 100%. Sounds great, right, Anthony?
Oh, it sounds fantastic, but of course we know where we're at right now.
Yep, we are heading down that road. Let's go to number two. First, I got to give a shout out to the great Carl Ravitch, who actually does call out Rob Manfred on a little bit of BS here. Let's go to that one, still from the draft.
Well, I'll be honest, my number would be 60 to 70 games, and you pay a full prorated salary, and we get back to the game of baseball. Why wouldn't that be acceptable?
You know, Carl, I'm not going to get into bargaining with you about issues with the Players Association. We'll make another proposal to them that's consistent with the economic realities that we're looking at, including the fact that our revenues are going to be down over 70%. And hopefully we'll find some flexibility on the other side and make an agreement.
Okay, so we were at this point. First of all, great job by Carl Ravitch actually calling out Manfred and saying, you know what? 60, 70 games, prorated, let's go. Manfred does the eye roll, and I love the Twitter gif of whoever it is zooming in on Carl Ravitch, just like looking in disgust as Manfred was basically like BSing him.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like his de facto move. I mean, we saw it throughout the Astros scandal and all how he handled that. And I mean, he really just like genuinely thinks he is so much smarter than everybody else. You know what I mean? I don't like just the whole situation. It's just been so disheartening, and like I get where like it's not all him, but like in that situation, yeah, when he's just sitting there, kind of feeding that BS, it's just like Like, come on, man. Like, give me a break. Like, at least, like answer the question. Like, the way he answered it was so just dismissive. Like, don't Carl Ravitch isn't a moron.
Yeah. Yeah, Carl Ravitch has been on the ball the last, couple of weeks. And then, obviously, we get the offer. We get the 72 games where the players can get 70% prorated pay, up to 83% of the playoffs are played. PA gets disgusted and says, you know what, we're not talking anymore. They're just making the same offer over and over again. Tell us when and where to play baseball. And we're thinking, okay, Rob Manfred will mandate the season. They'll file grievances with each other. They'll argue about that in court. We'll play baseball, so on and so forth. Then on Monday, on SportsCenter, on a special called The Return of Sports, Rob Manfred decided to drop this bomb on America.
You told Carl Ravitch here on ESPN last week that you felt 100% certain that there will be a season this year. How do you feel today?
Well, I know the owners are 100% committed to getting baseball back on the field. Unfortunately, I can't tell you that I'm 100% certain that's going to happen. I had been hopeful that once we got to common ground on the idea that we were going to pay the players full prorated salary, that we would get some cooperation in terms of proceeding under the agreement that we negotiated with the MLBPA on March 26th. Unfortunately, over the weekend, while Tony Clark was declaring his desire to get back to work, the union's top lawyer was out telling reporters, players, and eventually getting back to owners that as soon as we issued a schedule, as they requested, they intended to file a grievance claiming they were entitled to an additional $1 billion. Obviously, that sort of bad faith tactic makes it extremely difficult to move forward in these circumstances.
What are your concerns for the optics of this circumstance playing out as publicly as they are during the time in this country where all the other things, the confluence of events involving the pandemic and protest in the streets and everything else, of this playing out as publicly as it is?
It's just a disaster for.
I don't think it could be better said. It's just a disaster, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, that's about one of the only things that, Rob Manfred said that I fully agree with up to this point. I mean, he hit the nail on the head with that one. I mean, just everything. At this point, it's incredibly tone deaf that the owners and the players are arguing over millions of dollars right now, just with the state of the country, the world, everything going on with the pandemic and all. But I just want baseball back, man. I know we're all, up to three of us now are literally begging and pleading for baseball, but I can't imagine all the other baseball fans. So, the sooner we can see opening day out there, the better it'll be.
I agree, and this obviously, we're getting to the point where this comes out, all of America basically just goes, "What the hell's going on out here?" People are freaking out. The players are going on Twitter saying, "Tell us where and when." The owners are getting blasted to no end. Then we get to today, where we get a bomb from John Heyman that Rob Manfred and Tony Clark met in Phoenix, and it looks like we might actually get a season somehow. Can you believe that?
I mean, what took them so, what was the issue? Why did we just now have to, you know what I mean? What, why did it take until today to be like, whoa, guys, hold up. You think we should meet? Maybe the two most important people on both sides of this should actually sit down and talk about it. Man, oh gosh, it's infuriating. It really is. But go ahead.
No, baseball was in such a great position because they could have been the first sport back.
Oh yeah.
The only sport that would be playing, so you could attract even new fans just to be like, hey, basketball is not on right now. Not really going to be able to watch any sport. So for the hell of it, let's just start watching baseball. You can attract fans that way. But now you've alienated whatever fans you're hoping to bring in, and you've even alienated some of the lifer fans. It's just terrible
they would have had
situation for baseball.
They would have had say they started this thing in June. I mean, you have a month and a half eyes on you for a commissioner who, called out the game's best player because he wasn't marketable enough. A guy who's so worried about the next generation not watching baseball. I mean, it's honest to God, it's like this guy's on a fast break. He's LeBron James. No one's near him. Fast break. Nothing's in front of him. You can just dunk it and get the 2 points. And this guy just tries to, do some crazy and bricks it every single time. It's just astounding. I'm trying to I don't mean to be that critical of anyone, and I know it's not just him, But man, just like like it's not like this was hard to go and figure out.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like you said, you have that month and a half being the only thing on in the sports world.
Like that should urge you. That urges you enough. I truly did not. I don't understand it, but here we are. And like I said, I know it's not just his fault. The owners have been just as terrible. The players, like the salary demands. I mean, it's just been like an all-out failure on everybody's behalf.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it is just so bad all around. Like, the owners look like clowns. Like, Bill DeWitt coming out last week and saying that baseball isn't profitable. Like, come on.
Didn't they just sign that like $1 billion TV deal?
Yep.
Like, guys, where does that money go? Just into the air? No, it goes to you.
Yeah, that was the breaking point to the owners, like basically with the players off when they see the deal there and Andrew Marchand broke it on Saturday, and he's like, and they're like, okay, we're done. You guys can claim that you're poor, but we know you can make money hand over fist down the line. So just actually talk to us, and you want us to start the season. So that was happening. We also had the fun bit though today. We got the word that they basically have owners finally took them long enough to get to full prorated pay. They're talking about the DH coming in for the National League, expanded playoffs. The only difference now apparently is basically the number of games. Owners propose 60, players want close to 70. You can basically see the math on the wall. We're getting about a 65, 66 game season by the end of the week.
Yeah, which isn't like again, obviously I always would like to have the most games possible, but all things considered, I don't think that's terrible. I honestly, it's so funny because that's really not that big of a difference between 50 games, but for some reason I'm so much more like the 60 is more digestible to me than 50.
I mean, at this point, 50 is definitely low because baseball, you're known for 162 games, but at this point, I just want baseball.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll take anything at this point. I mean, 62, 60 games, 55, 50 games, whatever. At this point, let's get through October. Let's try to have some sense of normalcy in the sports world.
Yeah, we'll talk more
definitely.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the logistics and all this stuff later in the podcast. Our legal guy Phil Friday, because obviously there's still stuff you have to worry about with the coronavirus. I mean, all this stuff is going on down there, and I want to tell you guys about the on-field stuff real quick. You have any strong feelings about the universal DH?
Oh, give it to me forever.
I'm in the same exact boat. I want to see pitchers. They're paid to pitch. I don't really care about pitcher hitting. One pitch. So give me universal DH all day.
Yeah, very much so. I used to be super like, oh my God, blah, 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 it's the National League. No, I don't care. You're right. I don't need to see, Jacob deGrom and his lucrative right arm get hit by a pitch, God forbid, although he is a very good hitter.
Exactly. I mean, just echoing that real quick, I just always flash back to the Yankees with Chim-Ming Wang.
Yep.
He was rounding third, messes up his foot, and his tripping clear is done.
That was it. Yeah, that was it, unfortunately. So, yeah, give me the universal DH. Let me see Dom Smith get 600 at-bats a year.
I will miss the great moments when the pitcher does something incredible, like when Bartolo Colon homer in San Diego 5 years ago. Like,
I was gonna say, don't you think that's kind of like the last, like that should be like what put it to bed, right? Like Bartolo hit a home run, we don't need it anymore. Like that's
absolutely.
the thing. We're done. We've seen it.
Yeah, and Will, trivia question for you as a Met fan: who was the last Mets pitcher to hit then before the universal DH comes in?
All right. Oh God. Oh my God. It's gonna be. Is it someone obscure? Just tell me now if it's someone super obscure.
No, starting pitcher.
Starter.
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler.
Noah Syndergaard.
Okay. Lefty. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for Noah.
Yeah,
he could hit too.
Yeah, he started the last game of the season last year, and he was the last pitcher taking at bat before they went to pinch hitters.
Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was fun. I did not look up the Yankee equivalent, Anthony, so I'm not going to ask you that trivia question.
That was probably way like harder to even. Oh God, you got to dive deep for that one.
Yeah, I will say though, the Mets going to be well equipped for that universal DH when Yoenis Cespedes can't play left field.
Oh, I love it. I really do love it. Not even just because I'm a Mets fan and there's about 4 players on the Mets who should never see the light of day on the field again.
They got 6.
Yeah, but no, definitely sign me up. I think it helps the game a lot, and I mean, I don't know why players wouldn't want to do it. Or age, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't JD Martinez, not to go down a rabbit hole here real quick, but doesn't JD Martinez get paid like $25 million a year for the Red Sox? Like, think of that.
I mean,
it opens up so many more jobs.
And a lot more money for players, too, because those are high-paying jobs, the DH jobs.
Massive, yeah. I mean, God, guys make a career off of that. Like, seriously.
That's Big Papi's career in a nutshell.
No, like, exactly. Like, and especially for a guy like
Nelson Cruz.
Nelly. sorry guys. I keep going back to Dom. Like, Dom Smith, that is a guy who can just, albeit he is a good fielder. But yeah, it's a guy that, like, okay, he comes up, or you know, like, he comes up and there's 600 bats for you, 500 bats for you. I think it's very beneficial, and that's one thing I am really excited, honestly, to see. Just guys get more offense, man. I'm tired of the National League, like, you know, getting looked at as this kind of like slapping around little league stuff.
Yeah, I would say that's another thing. The other thing that I'm not as excited about is the 16-team playoff that's coming for 2 years. You know, once it comes in, it's never getting less than that. And this year, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's a short season. You know, get more teams in. The best, like, it'll give us more of a sample size in case like some random team doesn't do as well as they should. They can still get a shot at it. But if we're having a 16-team playoff in a 162-game season, what's the point of playing 162 games?
I just feel like in baseball too, like, it's one of the last sports that really like a division matters, and like making it to the playoffs is like a big deal. Like, no offense to the other leagues, but like the NBA, like half the freaking league makes it. Like can
hockey
you tell
too.
me who won? Yeah, exactly. Hockey also, like could you, any of you, tell me who won like a division in the NHL or NBA? Like, it does not matter. You know what I mean? Like, there's no emphasis on it, no value to it. So I really do hope that there's pushback on that later, though. Like, I just don't want to see 80, you know, it incentivizes like teams to just win 80 games and sneak in. You know, that's one of the beauties of the MLB playoffs. You can't really just crap your way to it.
Yeah, Anthony, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, the wild card game. How important that is to win your division now, Chris. I mean, baseball is such literally a day-to-day sport where your ace could have one bad game, and then you're all of a sudden out of the postseason, and you could have won, 85, 90 games, but you couldn't win your division. But now it's going to throw everything up. I think adding that wild card game, that one game playoff, was one of the best things that happened to baseball in the past 10 or so years.
Oh, no, you're exactly right. Like, it's like, that is, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's team, like, if you're a team, you're playing to get in and you want to get to it, but you do not want that game. Because like you said, like, I mean, we saw, like, when Arrieta pitched, didn't he just, or even look at Arrieta when it did in Pittsburgh, look what Bumgarner did to us in that game. I mean, it's just, that's what it, I love it. That's like the beauty of baseball. Like you said, anything can happen. So I just don't like this idea of this, diluting it and getting all these teams in it. And then maybe you have a team who's terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many years did the Orlando Magic make the damn NBA playoffs and they just get, they're just like LeBron's doormat.
Yeah, I agree. It diminishes the value of making the playoffs and everything.
And I get the money. Obviously, it always comes down to money, and it blah 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 blah. But I love baseball for that. Like, when you win your division, I am amped. Winning the division matters. Every time you advance in the MLB playoffs, it matters. I don't like that. And to be honest, like, that's a crap ton of, like, baseball games are long, guys.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of playoff games. And like you said, like 162 regular season games, and then you're going to go play that? I mean, wow. I hope the owners understand that, like, yeah, you're going to be getting more money in your pocket from the playoffs. But, I mean, you're crazy if you think the players are going to be like, oh, we'll keep our normal salaries with these expanded playoffs and postseason teams when we're playing 200 plus games a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I went to the standings last year as a frame of reference of the expanded playoffs. Like, The National League, you got lucky last year. You would have had 8 above 500 teams. The last one ended with the Cubs at 84 and 78. The American League, the disparity. The Houston Astros were first in the league with 107 wins. 8th place is Texas Rangers, 78 and 84. They keep playing a best of 3 series where Texas needs to win 2 games to advance. That does not seem good to me.
No, gosh, no, please, no.
There were 29 games behind the Astros in the standings. They're gonna have a 2 out of 3 shot to beat them.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, doesn't that just it's not a complex term, but it just sucks. Doesn't that just suck? Like, I don't like how many times do to be honest, be completely honest with yourself. How many of you do either of you really sit down and watch the first round of the NBA? I mean, I'll give the NHL a little more prop. Like, it's so intense. Like, every playoff series is so intense. But we're not watching the first round of the NBA playoffs. Like, people try to tell you, the 4 versus 5 is a cool series. Well, no, it's not, because those teams aren't even going to matter after the next round. I really don't want to watch, the number 1 seed in the league just go blow out the lower seed. And like you said, I just also in baseball, I know there's anything can happen, blah, 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 but I don't know. I'm just not into it. I'm really not into that idea. I think it's really just stupid, to be honest. You don't need half the league playing the playoffs. You don't need it. Keep it the way it is. That's one thing that I'll preach. I know baseball is stuck in its times and stuck in its ways for a lot of things, but I'd rather stay to what we have now.
Yeah, they have not Yeah, that's something I feel like once it starts, you never get the owners to read less playoff games. Once that happens, it's staying. It's not going to go.
Well,
they will never. There's never been a league to actually cut its schedule or cut its playoffs. They always add more.
Oh no! Once you put the money in the pocket, it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of the money going in the pocket, let's shift gears a little bit. We will go over to the 30 for 30 we watched on Sunday. In my case, on Tuesday, I DVR'd it. Long Gone Summer, the story of the 98 home run chase from Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, directed by AJ Spacknell, and I think I'm pronouncing his name right. But before we go any further, I will put the spoiler warning up in case you don't want to be spoiled about a documentary about a home run race you're all well aware of. All right, you can get out if you actually want to watch this thing, but boy, this was bad.
No. It was bad. It was terrible. It was just, halfway through it, I felt bad that I thought it was bad. Yeah. And then I was like, no, this sucks. This is just bad. I'm not the bad guy here.
For a 30 for 30, it's very shocking that was what the final product was.
I mean, what the heck was listen, guys. So if anybody's listening to this and they're still thinking about watching it, go on YouTube and just look up a montage, because I'm sure there's one that exists of the home runs from that season between the two. Save yourself an hour and a half. All right, just watch the homers, get the idea, and that's it. Because that's all that this documentary conveyed, that there are home runs hit. That's all that I can really assure you.
Literally, all the interviews that they had didn't add anything to the story.
Oh God,
and
no!
Mark McGwire was just, I live for baseball.
How many times did he say that?
Okay.
How many, I was just bored to do it. Listen, I'm not gonna get on a guy for I get it. If you're uncomfortable and it's so obvious that he was, that's just fine.
Yeah.
But as the person, we all are going to submit a documentary, submitted a documentary for our thesis. So we've all kind of gone through that process. If the interviewee is that bad, you got to figure out a way to get around it. He was like he did. How many times? Oh, it was just baseball's all I did. Didn't he blame at one point? Did he basically blame a divorce on that? Wasn't he I got divorced because I just love baseball so much? But
yeah.
Wow.
In his first introduction, he's like, I love baseball so much it led to my divorce. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Oh man, I was like, okay, Marky.
Yeah. Will and I both had the experience of having a class taught by one of the great documentary makers of all time, Ross Greenberg. And remember, one thing Ross has told us before is if the interview is bad, don't feel obligated to use it. I get that's tough here because Mark McGwire is one of the two big names here. McGuire and Sosa are
Yeah.
the home run chase. Without McGuire, you don't really have the movie. But McGuire was just, his personality was just a piece of wood, and the director, whoever did the interview, did not get anything out of him to make it more interesting. And when you're relying on that, that's a hard sell. And I do think also they didn't do a good job with who they interviewed, because I feel there are people missing in there. Like, we just talked around Ken Griffey Jr. We couldn't have talked to him for 5 minutes and got his perspective on the race.
I mean, and I know that when you say your rundown, that was one of your exact questions. Who did they leave out? Ken Griffey Jr.
I know.
How many times did they freaking bring him up? I mean, every time. Ken Griffey Jr. was the one that they thought, guys, get a quote, get him in there for a second. I mean, really, it was like bizarre, wasn't it? Like, every single time they referenced the chase, Ken Griffey Jr. was in it because he's a part of it.
They all kept saying, I thought Ken Griffey was going to be the guy to do it.
Exactly. I was like,
and they kept showing in the very beginning when McGuire first got on his tear, they said they had the first 3 people was McGuire, Griffey, and then Sammy Sosa came out of nowhere.
I mean, and like maybe, I don't know, maybe he declined being in it. Like which I find hard to believe because like he's going to be in his own documentary that's on MLB Network this weekend. So like, I don't know. I thought that was such an omission. Like, here's this huge home run race that this guy was so involved in, and we don't even get to hear from him for literally a sound bite.
Yeah. Even if he said no, you're not telling me there's archival footage of him talking in '98 about it you could have used to give him a voice in it at least?
Like, didn't you guys think that like it was just too much of them? You know what I mean? Like getting Griffey's perspective on it, especially after the fact, knowing what happened, what has transpired. Like, whoa! Like, you know what I mean? That is like Phillips. You referenced like. I'd love to hear what Ross had to say about that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You'd probably be like, guys, you gotta get him in here.
Yeah.
I think the thing I hate the most about it was that it was about the home run race between McGuire and Sammy Sosa. But Sammy Sosa in his interviews didn't add anything.
He was just like
he was there.
The one thing I'll give to him though is like he's in like this Florida apartment for most of it. I'm assuming it's Florida. Like they've got these really colorful paintings and stuff, and he kind of had like a lot of charisma to him. But yeah, when you're like, all right, I kind of get his vibe, and then you're like, wow, he's really not offering much either. And to his defense, though, I thought that the interviewer did a awful job at like handling his interviews. I mean, it was like nothing. It was like nothing was there.
Yeah, that's true. That was a bad call. I also feel like, how do you not have Joe Buck when Joe Buck is the one calling the Cardinals games and calls the 6-second homer? How do you not have him?
Dude, his dad was like such a big part to it. Obviously, I know you cannot, but like, you know what I mean? Like, wow, guys, there's another. And again, I had seen that somebody maybe thought maybe contractually, like since it was going to be on ESPN, he couldn't do it. But like, aren't the 30 for 30s kind of like are they solely produced by ESPN? I thought they were kind of like sold to ESPN. Like
that's what I thought.
I think it's a mixture between both. They kind of have like their certain directors that they kind of keep in house, but then I don't know, logistics of it.
No, that would make sense. So like again, like I don't really care about the grounds crew guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool that he caught the ball and everything, but it's like, and then it cuts to him, literally just cuts to him saying on the little stage there, Mr. McGuire, I have something for you, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like, what does that add?
Dude, I completely agree. I don't think it added anything. Yeah. Especially not for how much he was in the damn documentary.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. One other one I thought they missed that they definitely need to get, especially when you get to the end. We'll get to the end. The end was its own disgrace. Where's Bud Selig?
Oh, I know. Oh, well, I'll be honest. Do you really think he was going to be in it, though? Like, maybe, right? Because I don't know. Maybe he's just I don't want to freaking be near any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, even put on the screen, Bud Selig denied, like, we asked Bud Selig to talk. He said no. They didn't. They made it sound like they didn't even bother reaching out to him.
Yeah, I mean, hey, yeah. I mean, that's one of those, maybe, like, that did happen, but you're right. Like you said, you got to do that. Let the people know at least you didn't want to do it. But, yeah.
Because there was nobody really, like, representing the league there that much. It was all journalists. It was people who, like, covered the Cardinals and the Cubs. It was, like, no official league, like, representative sort of discussing anything.
But, yeah, because, like, in the Jordan doc, Oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking on his name. The commissioner was in it. Both Silver and oh my gosh,
Stern.
Who's the other
Stern.
commissioner? Stern. Thank you, God. Couldn't think of it. He was in it, and I know obviously it's like but wasn't like Stern was talking about a lot of the Jordan like conspiracies with like his father passing and stuff, and I can't imagine that was comfortable for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And he addressed when Jordan first retired to go play baseball. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the myth behind, was it a temporary, was it the suspension? That's why he did it.
Yeah, an uncomfortable discussion, no doubt. And I mean, well, we've seen how our current commissioner handles uncomfortable discussions, and I don't think he falls far from the ceiling tree. So I guess we kind of understand where he stands on that. But I mean, I can't wait to get into the end of this because I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, before we get to the end of this, I want to ask each of you, like, give me some things that they did wrong with this. I'll get to you first, Anthony.
Well, I mean, for someone who, I love documentaries and not just sports docs, just pretty much documentaries about anything. As much of a diehard baseball fan as I am, I didn't get I grew up during this, but I was so young that I don't remember anything. In '98, I was 4 years old, so I don't remember anything. But I feel
come on, dude.
I feel after watching this doc, I didn't really learn anything about it. They made such a big thing. There was such a big impact. Like 5,000 people are coming pregame to go watch BP. But why wouldn't you go interview like a super fan or something, or just a fan, get the overall like atmosphere, during that time?
I'm like right in line with you. I think that was like the select fans they had, like May 1, like it was cool, but like to be honest, like you actually cited like that batting practice thing was like really intriguing, and the fact like that they only touched on it for a little bit, you know what I mean? Like I felt like every time there was you kind of came back around and you're like, all right, they're kind of building this up the right way. Boom, back to like just nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt like that was cool. Like I would have loved to hear about that more. And it didn't. Every time you thought it kind of was getting a full head of steam, it just sizzled out, in my opinion. Like I just wish that. I feel like he was constantly trying to like sell you on who the guys were, but then even then, like Phillips and you had already said, like we heard nothing from Sammy Sosa. Like I wish I heard a lot more from Sammy Sosa and like a lot like more substance to it. I felt like it was like he was there because he had to be there.
Yeah, this felt like the Mark McGwire documentary, and now I can get into my list. I have a lot of grievances with this documentary. Number one is something I pointed to like off the air. It's like the use of the B-roll that bothered me when they were showing the old games and they were showing the fans in the stands. They would cut the footage of fans from today in the stands, and you'd see people with like Jason Hayward jerseys or Matt Carpenter jerseys. They were not there in the 90s. Come on.
Oh, no, that was the best part. Here's a beautiful Wrigley Field. We're talking about Harry Carey, Wrigley Field, and nice Saturday ball game at Wrigley Field. This Sammy Sosa home run, and here's a guy in a Kyle Schwarber jersey celebrating in the stands. Like, oh my gosh, I did. I guess that's like at first I was like, maybe that's like a little nuance where I'm being too nitpicky, but no, you're right. When you're talking about something from 1998, I don't need to see the streets littered with Matt Carpenter jerseys.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was number one for me. Number two, the music in this thing was awful. And the music in this thing, it's like this. I'm like you guys. I was a little older when this happens. I do remember this. This was the most boring music you could have picked for a home run movie because it was really like there are times they're showing the montage. You're like putting you to sleep when the home runs are being hit. You should be hearing like bang, loud music, rock music, like something to get you excited. And they didn't do that until the 6-second homer.
There was I don't want to go. I won't go long here, but so remember when McGwire? They talk about McGwire hitting some significant home run like on Father's Day or his dad's birthday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, the 2 minutes preceding that until like he said that, I just completely checked out. The only reason that sticks into my mind is because I remember going, wow, that was like interesting that he hit his home run on this significant date. But whatever happened before this was so damn boring.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Another grievance I have with this is like, why, like, I think this is a missed opportunity by the director there considering the two guys, why not try putting them in the room together? Because you saw what they did in the press conference. They were so much more fun when they're with each other. Why not try that?
I was going to say that, definitely. Because didn't they also, in the documentary, they kept hinting about how, like, the two of them were so good together, and La Russa said how, like, with Sosa, it was so much easier for McGuire to handle it. Yeah, I mean, come on. Just layups after layups.
Yeah, and it's like now McGuire's still coaching. McGuire retired from being a coach, so he could be around his kids more. Like, it wouldn't have killed him to fly them to one place for one day and let them talk to each other. I feel like you got much more interesting stuff out of that than. And I feel they would have been more open with each other than they would just talk to a camera.
Oh, no doubt. I completely agree.
Yeah. Any thoughts on any of the issues I raised?
I mean, you hit everything right on, and I couldn't agree with you more. This is a very, very forgettable documentary. It's definitely one I wouldn't recommend on the top of the list. But I also think, we all got spoiled from the Last Dance and everything. But then again, this was pretty bad.
Well, I mean, even the Lance. I don't know if did you guys watch Lance Armstrong one?
I did. Lance Denise made you feel something. Like you could still, I still can't stand Lance, but at least they got you to feel something. This made me feel nothing.
Oh no, I was gonna say I actually I know some people didn't like that doc, but I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Lance doc because like you said, like he was like the interview. It was very well done.
Yeah.
I mean, this one was just like, oh man, it was so deflating because you get all pumped up for it, and then like that wasn't to me. In retrospect, yeah, it captivated the nation at the time, but like the reason that story still is so intriguing to this day is because of who was involved and what happened and what was used, and you completely ignored that. To me, nobody cares about in today, 2020. Nobody cares about that home run chase enough, like at it on its own, right? To stand for an hour of that documentary, it was just ridiculous. I don't think anybody cared that much about the race alone as much as they did care about the fact that these are two juicers, or alleged juicers who captivated baseball. It's kind of like one of those dirty things where you're like, wow, steroids saved baseball. This huge negative that tainted the game saved baseball. That's the story to me, and it was completely botched.
Yeah, I remember 2 weeks ago, I watched Lance Part 1. I remember clearly the story where he's talking about the people at the restaurant who basically walked up to him and said, F you, F you, F you, F you.
Yeah,
and then he says, I'm paying for the bill, let them know it's me. I remember nothing from this documentary, and I watched it 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like I stopped it and then went back because I wanted to finish it because we were talking about it on here. If you didn't want to talk about it on here, I'll be honest, I wouldn't have went back and finished it. But cut it off and call it a night.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of the end of this now, we will get to the big elephant in the room, which is the steroids, because we're all dying to know about that. They briefly touched on it in about like an hour in when they talk about find the Andro and Mark McGuire's locker. We get the conversation at the end, which they start off horribly because they're like, oh, by the way, steroids happen. And then they start off with a shot of Barry Bonds, who was not even in this stupid thing.
Oh, no, that was honestly...
I'm like, they're throwing Barry under the bus.
That was one of my biggest pet peeves, too. It was literally what you like. Oh, guys, okay, here comes the big thing. But here's Barry Bonds, right? Barry, big steroid guy, not these two. That was a joke. Yeah. And then when they brought up the McGuire stuff when they found it, they were like, it was like, they talked about it, and then they went to the creatine thing and like dangled Greg Biggio in front of it. In that, I just felt like it was constantly passive aggressively being like, oh, look at this instead of this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt like such an afterthought. Like, this was like prevalent, but like we don't have anything to talk about, so let's just throw this in and not really plan about anything.
Yeah.
It's just insanity. They had to talk about it. These two. That's why it is so intriguing. And they didn't even talk about the cork bat, did they?
No.
Like one of the more interesting stories in baseball history is Sammy Sosa's cork bat blowing up in a game. I don't know.
Speaking of Mr. Sosa, by the way, this is another point doc to the interviewer. I think it was the director doing the interview, but this conversation at the end here about when they asked Sammy about the steroid thing. Let's listen to this. I was the only clip I pulled from this thing.
Current owners of the Cubs seem to want you to say something about steroid use. They want you to, quote unquote, come clean.
But why did they worry about me when pretty much everybody in that era did it?
Why are they specifically focusing on you?
Exactly. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm a very happy person, my friend. I'm good. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like there's more pressure put on you to say something about this than is put on other players?
I ask you once again, and that list was about 106 players. It is about 4 or 5, maybe more than that, in the Hall of Fame. So you figure it out. So I am the one to blame.
Two problems with that line of questioning. Number one, how you not follow up on there are 4 or 5 guys in the Hall of Fame on the list who did steroids? How you not follow that up? And number two, when Sammy's saying, why ask me, you have to clarify to him, you hit 66 home runs in 1998. People want to know why if you did steroids that year. That's the whole point of this stupid thing. They don't get it.
No, letting him play coy, yeah. Like, Sammy, yeah, there's like a really big, not only just hit 60 then, you kind of sucked until you just started to get big and powerful and all this. And yeah, so there's like a real indication. People want to know why. And then like, yeah, I mean, come on. Like, I actually do like kind of side with him when he is like, okay, like, get off my back. Like, why me? Like, everybody else did it. You didn't press McGuire as much. You know what I mean? Where I kind of do get that. But at the same time, yeah, you got to be like, listen, Sammy, you hit 66 dingers in 1 year. Come on.
It's just so bad. It's like literally like he's there. You have to ask the question. You have to, if he's clearly is ducking it, you have to ask him point blank. Like, this is about you and the home run chase. McGuire did things. You went in front of Congress in 2005 and pretended not to speak English in front of the committee because you didn't want to answer the questions, and you had your attorney speak as the interpreter for you. At some point, ask him, like, did you do steroids in 1998, yes or no, and get the answer on camera.
I mean, even if he's, even if it's the last one, you piss him off and he never wants to talk to you again, whatever.
That's why you do it at the end.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everything you need.
Yeah, okay, well, he hates me now, whatever. Like, yeah, like, come on. Part of being like a journalist and these guys who do these documentaries, and you got to ask the tough questions, man. You got to be more forceful than that. Like in the Lance documentary, not to keep going back to that, the interviewee, Lance constantly tried to duck out of questions, and they would not let him. And that's what made that so intriguing, because he kept forcing him to give you legitimate answers.
Yeah, it's because not everybody is Michael Jordan. Not everybody will actually give you like stuff and like actually be completely like honest with you. Like Sammy Sammy clearly had something he did not want to discuss. It's your job if you're doing this to get some sort of answer, even if it's like a no. Like, just get some sort of answer from him, not like let him like duck the question and be like a martyr.
Yeah, and also like Sammy, I'm sorry, but like, again, the reason you're still relevant is for being like one of the biggest steroid or alleged users during the peak of steroid era. Like, nobody's really asking you to come back around because they thought you're going to be like a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like, we're not bringing the Sammy Sosa Hall of Fame tour out here. We're bringing out the, oh, here's Sammy Sosa and his corked bat.
Yeah, let's wrap this up a little bit. Let's add out some artware. Let's go around the panel real quick. Anthony, who is your MVP of this documentary?
I guess I'll just give it to McGuire, just because I never really knew anything about McGuire, so it's kind of interesting, what little information that he did give and everything. But I'm just looking at it from a pure baseball fan. It was a cool moment to see, especially growing up during it and not remembering any of it.
Well, how about you? Who's your MVP?
The guy who did the credits at the end, because it was over. I mean, I'm seriously, I don't think anybody in that documentary was riveting. I don't think anything, like, maybe the guy, the groundskeeper guy, because, like, I guess I liked him. I like, seriously though, I'm not trying to be like some like over the top, like it was bad. I genuinely didn't really like it. I mean, like, your Costas.
Yeah,
I liked him.
Yeah, my guy's Bob Costas. I think he's the MVP because I think he actually put some thoughts into the air that actually like articulate how we really feel about this thing now. Like, I think he made a great point at the end of it too. It's like, it was not illegal at the time. Like, they they were following the rules of baseball. Was it immoral? Sure. It was not illegal. That's my take on it.
Yeah. No, I hear it. Yeah, he was the only one that really offered much, and yeah, him and the credits guy.
Yeah. Well, let's go the other way. Let's go the LVP route. Who came out of this looking the worst? I'll go to you, Will, because you clearly have a lot of candidates in this.
No, I mean, this one's easy. It's Sosa, isn't it? Sosa. Like he wasn't given. Again, I really don't like. I will scapegoat him to a degree where, like, I don't think he was necessarily given the platform. Like, I guess the director thought, oh, this really boring Mark McGwire is so much more interesting than Sammy Sosa. But like Sammy Sosa, so like yeah, I have no recollection of Sammy Sosa playing, not really. Like so, this is like I know Mark McGwire, blah blah blah. So like I really would have loved like when they talked about Sammy Sosa coming up and playing a little bit, like that was cool to me. Like hey, I'm learning about this guy. I just didn't like how they like had him in it. Like I don't know, maybe like he really didn't want to answer the questions, but I would have loved to have like seen him kind of explain himself more, like talk more, be involved more. I didn't need to see that much McGwire. So maybe like he's the LVP because like this wasn't given the platform. But at the same time, maybe he's the LVP because he was garbage as an interviewer and they didn't want to put him in there. But he was my LVP.
Anthony, any new LVP candidates?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with Sosa, but I'm going to take a different route. I'm going to go within the director's route. You know, there's just so much stuff that's left out that, you know, you could have done as, you know, a documentary filmmaker, as a journalist, as just everything. There's just so many things that miss the mark.
Yeah, I am with you entirely. My LVP is AJ Schnack, the director, because I'm looking at this thing. I watched this thing, and like, you guys know, like, I did a thesis writing about the history of the home run where I covered stuff like this. I covered this home run chase for 5 minutes in there. I felt like I learned more in 5 minutes of my piece than I did in 2 hours of his.
Yeah, because you didn't waste an hour and a half to show the freaking home run replays. You went short and sweet. You told the same story in the correct amount of time. Because as I said before, the story is not just the chase. You know what I mean? Yeah. And as you put in your doc, it was not just the chase. I can't imagine that this director actually thought like people cared that much about the chase alone. Like that is not the reason why that story was so intriguing and is so intriguing now. You know what I mean? Just completely misguided, I think.
It's definitely missed the mark because there was a story to be told about, like, you basically also did not set the stage up very well about how important it was in bringing the game back from the strike. You talked about it briefly for 5 minutes at the top, like, oh, the strike happened, and then 2 hours of home runs, and then, oh, steroids. Like, you could have built a little time talking to fans about how they didn't want to go watch baseball again. You could have spent time on the steroids. We did not need a 2 hour montage of home runs. It's not a good documentary.
No, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, like it. If you had if you didn't have any idea of what was going on before you got into it, like with the strike and stuff like that, like I feel bad. Like if some young kid like just watched that, they're probably like, I don't understand what I just watched. You know what I mean? Like you said, no build up at all.
You also could have used a little more on Roger Maris too, because like he was the guy who had the previous record, and there are a lot of parallels in the two chases where McGwire and Maris kind of the same personality. Sosa and Mickey Mantle sort of had the same personality. Like, they didn't even mention Mickey Mantle's name once.
No, and they hinted at it. They hinted at it a little bit. Again, it was one of those things where like they showed a glimmer of light, and then boom, back to like the stuff we don't care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing I thought was really interesting, just because you brought up Maris, Mike, was that, you know, Maris was very hated for, you know, breaking Babe Ruth's record.
Yeah, I know.
Which was a crazy thing that they touched on a little bit, but it would have been more, you know, interesting to touch on it more.
That was like literally one of the things. Sorry, not to cut you off, but that was one of my big things too. Yeah, they talked about it for a second.
Yeah. Also, maybe remember one other MVP of this. Steve Traxel for actually having the balls say, you know, I was pissed off when all my teammates are going to go hug Mark McGwire after he hit the home run off of me.
The human rain delay.
Yeah. I thought he
Yeah,
would.
no, I actually did. Watching that replay, I even was like, "What the hell?" I don't think that I would. Like, I'm not, I don't think that's what I would have done.
Yeah, let's all agree. I think we're giving this all D's and F's. I think that's all the consensus grades here.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
definitely on the F side.
Yeah, I'm going F.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it anything higher than that.
Yeah, I think this is in the running for the worst 30 for 30 of all time.
Oh, quite possibly. I can't. I honestly,
I have to do it.
I can think of one. Yeah,
I can't think of any other one that I haven't enjoyed. This is the only one that comes to my mind that I haven't liked at all.
Yeah,
terrible.
I think the closest one for me is the one of the competitive eaters. That was also pretty bad.
Oh well, I don't remember. I have zero recollection of that. So that's probably not good company to be in.
Yeah, it was on last summer. It was about Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi.
Oh yeah. I did not watch it. Completely avoided it. I do know what it is though. Yeah.
That was really bad. This is right down there with that one.
Yeah, that's some good company. Here's this iconic home run racing Joey Chestnut.
Yep. McGuire, Sosa, Chestnut, the immortal trio of 30 for 30 subjects.
Yeah, it was really riveting.
Yeah, if you want to watch a good baseball documentary, go watch Ken Burns' baseball. Go watch the Griffey one on Sunday. Watch Tom Seaver. Don't watch this.
I am very excited about Griffey, by the way. That one I am excited for. LeBron, they showed LeBron's in it. I mean, oh God.
Yeah, at least we'll hear from people who are relevant to Ken Griffey in this one. Unlike this one where we forgot half the people who actually had a part of the story.
And Ken Griffey himself.
Yes.
So.
Yep, that should be much better. I do want to wrap this up here. I want to thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I'll give you guys a chance to plug your social medias. Ant, you can go first.
Yeah, Instagram, it's at Sorbellini Photos, and then Twitter is at @Ant_Sorbellini.
And Will, how about you?
On Twitter at WillShutter81. Just not doing much right now, but yeah, give me a follow.
Yeah, we're waiting for that baseball to come back. That's what we're sitting here waiting to do.
Sounds close, but we'll sit here and wait.
Yeah, we will. And assuming this gets done, and hopefully by the end of the podcast, in this point in time, we'll have an answer on this. But assuming we actually do get this thing done, we get baseball. You guys, I'm sure, will be popping up throughout the next couple of weeks as we start getting ready for the season.
Yeah, hopefully the Mets are back to pissing me off and breaking my heart. That's when reality really comes back a little bit, right?
Yeah, when we're sitting here talking about how the Met bullpen blew a 2-0 lead for Jacob deGrom in the 8th inning again, that's when we'll be feeling good about baseball.
That's life.
Yeah,
that's when I know I'm back.
Yeah, that's how we know we're back. We're talking about Jacob deGrom possibly winning the Cy Young, going 3-2 with a 1.5 ERA.
Yeah, hey, I need it in my life. I complain about it when it happens and lost without it.
Indeed. Thanks. I want to thank you guys again. That was a lot of fun. Up next, we're going to wrap this show up. We will touch base with our legal correspondent, Phil Ferreira, break down the logistics of all this. What does this mean? Where are we? Where are we going? All that's coming up right after this.